Flyers TV, sponsored by the Bay Hotel, Fife's premier wedding venue.
Flyers TV welcomes none other than Mr. Danny Stewart. Thank you for coming on to do an interview.
No problem, my pleasure, my pleasure.
So Danny, obviously you've had a long career in the elite league now, and it started way back for you obviously in Fort McMurray. You're the youngest of three brothers. How was life growing up playing hockey?
A lot of fun. Obviously being up north, you obviously had the climate in the winter, so whenever we couldn't get ice at an arena, we were out on the outdoor ponds or the outdoor skating rinks. We had a basketball court right behind our house that obviously in the winter they just froze over and put some water on, and we could just jump over the fence and go skate and play as well. So yeah, two older brothers played. My father played as well. So as soon as I could walk, you were on skates, and just I guess the culture of Canada, and especially up north in a northern town like that as well.
You went to the University of Miami and studied there and played your hockey, for several years before I went to Fort Wayne. And how were the university days? Did you play with a lot of guys from back home, or was it just kind of a couple of years that went there?
No, not many guys from back home, but I loved it. It was a blast. It was great experience. Playing NCAA hockey, you're playing against future NHLers and guys that are going to play at top levels across Europe, and how you're treated at that level as well is top notch. You're almost treated like an NHL player, and that was a fun time in my career. I wouldn't say I had the best of college careers, if I'm being honest. A little bit of injuries, a little bit of in and out of the lineup at times, and but I managed to piece together a decent career. But not something that I would write home about. But we unfortunately didn't win anything when I was at Miami either, and but it's great program and something to be a part of for sure.
So obviously you had those junior days across back home in Canada, and then Paul Thompson, the Coventry Blaze, come knocking, and to come across to play in the UK. And can you remember back to how that came about? Yeah,
so I actually I'd spent my first 2 and a bit years in Fort Wayne, like you mentioned earlier, and then I had gotten traded to Danbury for the Trashers, and I remember the team folded at the end of the season, so I was kind of looking at something to do, and within 2 weeks I got a call from Tomo, who had been speaking to a couple players that had played against me in Barry Moore, that I ended up playing with in Coventry, and I played against him in pro in the States. And then I played also with a guy named Sean Venedam, who was very good friends with him and Neil Martin. And Tomo was looking for a kind of an energy rat like myself, and he made the phone call, and I remember I think I took 2 days or something like that, and made the decision to come over, and I've been here for almost 20 years now.
I mean, you mentioned it there, the rink rat, and that title that comes with that, and you spent those 4 successful years in Coventry as a player to start off with, league titles, and you were playing with some huge players. You're talking about obviously Neil Martin, and you've got guys like Calder, you had Weaver, you had Ashley Tate, you had Klutz, another kind of rink rat guy and high energy player, and what stands out for you in those times with Coventry?
I just think how we had such a good group, and it was over the 4 years I think we won 5 trophies, 3 league titles, and it was fun. It was fun. We had fun off the ice, we had fun on the ice, but we came to work every day no matter what the situation was, and we just had a great group of guys. Tomo was really smart on selecting players and piecing together a roster, and not just on the ice but personalities off the ice, and it just always worked. And I think towards the end of my time there, that last year, I felt like we actually weren't the best team. I think we just got by just with that continuity and that kind of identity and culture of winning, and Tomo did a great job that year as well, and and ended my time there on a high note.
Yeah, and as you say, just ending your time at Coventry, and obviously the opportunity to go to Newcastle, and that what ended up being their final year as a club, and that's a very different experience for yourself, and it was your first as obviously a player coach, and talk us through how tough a year that was.
Yeah, very tough. I think I was pushing into my 30s, and Newcastle had contacted Tomo because they were looking for a player coach. I think Rob Wilson had moved on at the time, and asked if it was okay to talk to me, and then Tomo talked to me about it, and I said, yeah, I'll hear them out. And when I interviewed for the job, it was with the understanding that we were going to play in the arena in Newcastle.
Yeah.
We came to an agreement, took the job, and within a couple weeks the arena fell through, and we ended up playing in Whitley Bay. And it was a character building season, to say the least. It was, I think, in hindsight, although it was very tough, it was probably the best thing for me in terms of not just finding my feet as a coach, but maturing as a grown man as well. Like, when I first came over, I was full of piss and vinegar, and I was running around, hitting everything and fighting and all that. And once you get into your 30s, I think the last 2 years in Coventry, I'd had some concussion problems. I had 4 or 5 in 2 years, and so ultimately had to change my game a little bit. And but again, we had a great group in Newcastle. The guys, some guys left, understandably. Jamie Longmuir did a phenomenal job getting us to the end of the year. I had great support cast, and Dave Holland on the bench, and off-ice staff, and but the group of players, I can't name them all. I'd be scared to forget one, but they just bought in, and we took humpings, but then we would show up, and I think we made the Challenge Cup semi-final that year somehow.
Yeah.
I remember being in Belfast with, I think we had 11 or 12 skaters, and we got outshot like 60-20, and we found a way to win to get to the semi-final, and we had to navigate through that. I think my fondest memory of that season was in the Challenge Cup semi-final. In leg 1, we beat Nottingham 4-3, and we went down for leg 2, and we lost 15-0. And that was the parity in the rosters, and it just showed you how we had to come together. And the crazy thing about it is, a week later we had a league game against them at home, and we ended up beating them 6-5 at home in OT. And you would have thought we won the Stanley Cup, but because those moments make all the hard work and all the tough situations feel worth it. And it was a tough season, and unfortunately the Vipers had to fold and pack up shop, but I certainly learned a lot that year.
And unfortunately, Vipers' loss was our gain. And you made the journey up to Fife and started your career here. And you were a player assistant coach when you came in here, and quickly became a fan's favourite. And your time here was fantastic. Again, very tough start. It was Fife's first elite league year, but the guys that you made bonds with, guys like Todd Doughton was a club legend, and you had guys over the years. There's so many to name, but Dan Seaman, guys like Hamilton, Haynes, Bobby Chamon, you could go on, and just talk about your fondest memories of being in this old barn and playing for Fife.
I tell you, Fife always have a big piece of my heart. I loved my time here, and that first season was very difficult, but it was a club that was trying to find their feet at this level, and wasn't probably prepared for that first season, in terms of off-ice staff, doctors, the facilities, in terms of the dressing room, and everything else that went with it, putting a complete roster together, and we sure took our humpings that year. And I tell you, I'm not going to lie, at the end of that first season I had contemplated retirement, after the season in Newcastle and first season here, but obviously with my relationship with Dutes, and I also think with what he had to endure that season, I felt the desire to come back and try to spring the team forward, and we did a lot of great things. It was a fun year. We had the likes of Keister and Keller and the Pitton brothers and Haynes, and it was a fun group. Chris Hogg, and to name a few, and the local guys. I mean, Tommy and Jamie and Gunny and Scooney and Wando and all these guys, man. Like I love these guys to death. Like what they did. We go down to Cardiff on a Sunday, and we'd get back at 6 a.m, and these guys are jumping in their trucks and going to work, right? And not only did they fill the roster, but they brought themselves up to speed, and they did a job for us. And the next 4 years we made the final weekend twice, and I think a lot of people don't talk about that series with Nottingham. The one year they were really good, and I think we beat them 4-2 here at home in the quarterfinal, and then we went down there, and I wish we had VAR back in those days, because I think we would have went through that year too. But it is what it is. But I think just every year we gradually got better and better, and then ultimately my final year, that was maybe arguably the funnest year of hockey I'd ever had. It was my final season, but we had guys like Fox and TJ Keg, and I had a blast that year. And what a group, beating Glasgow in the quarterfinal, and then making a way to the finals weekend. And again, we came up a bit short, but I don't think I could have went out in any better way.
I mean, you talk about your time at Fife, and obviously when you were in Coventry, obviously met Harriet, your wife now, and you started a family here in Fife at your time here as well. And the memories that you must have of this place, but playing in front of the fans, and you talk about going down to the playoff weekend, and obviously we didn't know you were going to be in your last. It was the last we'd seen you play until we got word down there, and fans obviously trying to show their appreciation down there as well. I think because of how much you gave to the club, and just the memories that you've left for Fife as well. But those experiences have got to be something that you keep in your mind.
Oh, absolutely. I obviously proposed to Harriet here in Fife on Weaver's Crescent there, and but yeah, our firstborn Isabel was born here, and yeah, I don't have a single bad thing to say about my experience here, both on and off the ice. I was treated, by Tom Muir was phenomenal to me and my family. Dutz was phenomenal to me and my family, and the organization was first class. And there's always people that'll bark on the outside and have their perceptions, but they were first class people. And I like I said, I can't say enough good things about the club and organization.
So you kind of went full circle after that, ended up back at Coventry as the head coach down there, and you had that position, and that marked the end of your playing days, and you went to concentrate on hockey there as a coach, and you became the director of hockey operations down there as well, and you had 4 or 5 seasons down there as well.
Yeah.
Not the easiest of seasons, but again, somewhere that you loved, somewhere that you'd started off your career in the UK, and you went back there for a period of time.
Yeah, no, actually 8 years, Laura. That's how many years. Yeah, so it was a bit of a bumpy start, but as you remember, we had the conference systems, and we were in a conference with Belfast, Nottingham, Cardiff, and Sheffield, and we played them the majority of the time. And I think that first year we missed the playoffs by a point. So obviously, a little bit of flack from the fan base, and into season 2, I think we still had the conference systems, but we managed to find a way that year and get into playoffs. And but from then on, really proud of what we did. Once we came out of conference system, I think it was 5 full seasons, not including the Elite Series, and I think we had the best overall record in those 5 complete seasons. 2 of the seasons, before COVID-19 20, we were challenging for the league as a smaller budget club. And again, no excuses, but that's the reality of the situation. And we were 3 points off first with 5 games to go, and even in 22-23, I think we ended on 75 points, and I think probably in hindsight, I think Christmas time we were slugging it out with Belfast and Guildford at the top of the table, and we lost our captain for about 6 weeks. And us as a club, we didn't probably do enough to bring a replacement in, and we kind of dropped off. And I think that was just enough to kind of lose track in the race. And but still finished on a great season and came up short in the playoffs. But I think even my last year there, we were ticking away in 4th or 5th place there, and we unfortunately lost Keno, and we took a bit of a dip after that, rightfully so. But credit to the guys that year, they found a way in that last weekend to kind of win those 2 games and get us into 6th place. And again, probably my one regret was that I was never able to get the Blaze to the final weekend or a cup final or in that sense, but did a lot on and off the ice. I think for all these clubs we've just mentioned, it was probably wearing a lot of hats with all these clubs on and off the ice, and then obviously the opportunity to go to Nottingham came up.
And that is a big opportunity, a huge opportunity for you that you took up last year by going to Nottingham, and the success you had in that first season, Danny. I mean, 3rd place in the league, and then you go into the playoff finals. It goes to second lot overtime. Mitch Fossey has a goal ruled out in regulation, and then Gourley has one ruled out in regulation for Cardiff as well. you won it in that. I mean, what was your feelings going through that game?
I was emotionally spent, but it was a great experience. It was, and a big reason for the move. I just, it was the ability to just coach and not have to worry about everything, and bigger support staff there off the ice, and having the ability to just focus on coaching was something that was very appealing. I thought, my time in Coventry, maybe I thought for myself, finding a new energy, it was time, and also for the club, a new person to go in there and maybe bring a different, identity to the club as well. And, and I don't regret it at all. It was the right decision for me and my family, and, to finish that season on that high in that game. And like I said, by the end of that game was emotional. Because you think you won it, so you have all the emotions of you such a high, and then you have to bring yourself back down, and then for 5-10 minutes there you thought you lost it, and then you got to bring yourself back up. And I can't imagine how tough it was for the players on both sides. And
I was just about to say, like, what are you saying to the players? I mean, twice everyone's going out there picking up their kit, putting it all back on to start again basically, and a championship winning game, and it's trying to get those guys reset and ready to go again.
Well, you can see on that game winning goal, you could see it was probably whatever team was just going to make the first big mistake. And you could see even us with the puck, like, we weren't moving very quick. And in Cardiff, both teams were dead on their feet, and ultimately, fortunately they made the mistake. And you know what, Foss and those guys are good players. They made a good play and scored a nice goal. So, but yeah, it was phenomenal to end on a high like that.
So your second year in Nottingham, as things stand, you're sitting top of the league at the moment, and obviously plenty of hockey left to play in the season.
Yeah.
Be looking to certainly try and get more silverware, under your belt at Nottingham, and we wish you all the very best for the rest of the season. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really, really appreciate you joining us, and hopefully everyone enjoys it at home.
And thanks for having me. And one thing I want to say too is the Flyers fans as well. I mean, they were always phenomenal to me. Even when I come back now, they just always saying hi and stopping for a conversation. And like I said, I can't say enough about the town, the organization, the fans. I love my time here.
Thanks, Johnny. Thank you.
All right.